What's up, everybody? It's the Roundtable Sports Podcast. My name is Taylor McLean, and it was a fun week of football. I watched every game last week, and I plan to do so again this week to bring you the best content available, and really so I'll know what I'm talking about when I talk about these games. I'll have watched the games. That's pretty simple math. And so, if you ever notice that my podcasts are more about how I feel rather than, oh, he had this EPA and he had this stat here and that. We'll talk stats, right? That's what we're here for, partially with fantasy football and the betting side of it with pick'ems and stuff like that. But at the same time, it's more about watching the game and knowing how I felt about those games. And I'm 3 games deep so far. I watched 2 last night during and after Sunday Night Football. Obviously, I watched that as well. Gonna miss the Monday games, so I'll have to rewatch those. I'm gonna go to a Texas Rangers games with my parents, so I'm excited about that. But I got a good leap on this. I got a good jump on this week, and I've already watched 3 games. So I thought I'd get everything off my chest. I'm gonna dump out my purse all in front of everybody about what I felt or feel like I know about these games. And we're going to start with, man, I got to get my pointing. It's opposite. It's opposite on the camera here. Okay. We're going to talk about the Colts versus Texans first. Sorry, we don't have a Texans jersey for right here because I'm a Cowboys fan and we're not changing it out. We're eventually going to talk briefly about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but I digress. Let's talk about the Indianapolis Colts win over the Houston Texans. Good win for the Colts. A little disappointing that Anthony got knocked out of the game. Still, exciting times for both these franchises, having potential franchise quarterbacks in their midst, having drafted 2 quarterbacks for each team this last time. So definitely teams I'm going to be watching closely to get a feel for how these rookies look overall. And so obviously Anthony with the Colts, didn't get to see a whole lot of him, but you saw how devastating he can be with his legs when he's able to get into open field. He didn't get a whole lot of open field in the game before. It was a lot of side to side. They did a good job of hemming him in a little bit, but they didn't have a legitimate running game to deal with last time the Colts played. So adding Zach Moss and then playing him all but 1 snap of the game was a huge upgrade for the Indianapolis Colts. I think Zach Moss might be my new standard for, are you an NFL running back? It's Zach Moss. If you're not Zach Moss or better, then you're a below average guy. And that's what the Colts had in week 1. Deion Jackson has a little bit of pop in his legs as far as speed goes, but once he gets touched and once he gets somebody puts hands on him, he's probably going down. Zach Moss can break tackles and has the same amount of requisite speed as Deion Jackson. He's not just a guy. And when you added that element to the Colts offense, you had really good results, especially when Ryan Kelly was in there. Now he got concussed and left the game. And what was the guy's name? Hold on, let me look here. What was Home Slice's name that I did not really care for all that much? Wesley French. Did not care for Wesley French all that much while he was in there. But regardless, I thought the offensive line had a good game and they had an actual running back that was capable of taking advantage of some of the lanes that the Houston Texans were giving. Let me say also that the Houston Texans are kind of weak up the middle. It's kind of the inverse of the Colts defense, because the Colts defense with Franklin, Shaq Thomas, and mainly DeForest Buckner and Grover Stewart up the middle, that gives them the ability to control where the game takes place. And for the Houston Texans, that's a big time disadvantage to them, because they want to run the ball and then run off of play action off of that and not have to have CJ Stroud just straight drop back and have to beat the team with his arm. We'll talk about how he looked doing that, because the Colts were able to force him to do that because of their defense. The Texans have the inverse, where they're kind of weak in the defensive tackles. They're better out on the edges. So to have this matchup it's a really bad matchup for Houston. It's a good matchup on offense for the Indianapolis Colts. I bet as such, not to brag, I'm not a professional bettor or anything, but I knew going into this game that especially without Laramie Tunsil and still without Howard on their edges, that was going to be a big problem when they were already going to have a problem with the defensive tackles and linebackers. The defensive tackles and linebackers for the Texans are very vulnerable at this point. And with Zach Moss back there and with the line with Nelson, Kelly, and then, the other linemen playing well as well, that really allowed the Colts to do what they needed to do to kind of spread the offense out and to make the Texans defense vulnerable in a way that allowed their offense to get off. I also, what's the other the guard is Freeze. I'm a guess that's Freeze. I didn't hear them say his name much, and there's a reason for that. That guy, pass blocking was one thing, but he was a beast in the run game. So take him with a grain of salt, maybe. But he was probably one of the Colts' best players on this day, too, because they needed that running game, especially when Anthony went out. Now, the point to all of that was that legit run game with Anthony's running ability and then his ability to also pass on a decent level, not a high level, but a good level. And that's going to make for days like today on offense when Anthony's in there, it's going to be really hard to take the running back out of it and take the quarterback out of it. And it should be even more accentuated when you get somebody the caliber of Jonathan Taylor back in that offense. I think that's going to be a big deal for them to have that hammer and then have Anthony be the lightning off of that. You can, unlike a running back combination of thunder and lightning, you can have Anthony and Jonathan Taylor out there at the same time. And you noticed a big difference when you had somebody that was above replacement level in Zach Moss. Zach Moss is a legitimate NFL running back. He's not super high end. That's why the Bills gave up on him. They were looking to get better, but having him being Zach Moss as your replacement when you don't have Jonathan Taylor for at least the first 4 games, that made a world of difference for the Colts. And with and without Anthony. Now with Anthony in there, he was, man, him out in open space is so dangerous. And even trying to tackle him in open space, not just him being able to juke, but him being able to run through you as well because of his immense size and strength. It's a combination you don't see all that often. That's why I didn't think it was hyperbole last week to call him Josh Allen in his rookie year. Now, it's still on Anthony to make those Josh Allen type leaps in his from the pocket passing, because Josh was not good from the pocket initially, and really nobody is just good from the pocket straight up when they first get started. And that's part of what makes me excited for CJ Stroud, is he was good in those moments in ways that I don't think Anthony is capable of yet. But CJ doesn't have the same physical profile that Anthony does either. And then Houston, just from a team-to-team standpoint, just isn't as far along on defense as the Colts are. And then for the Colts defense, you really need to be able to threaten them on the edges. Like you need to be like the Bengals and really have like the T. Higgins, Jamar Chase to really hurt them bad, because their cornerbacks are good, not great. I don't think. I think they're serviceable, but it's really the strength from the Colts comes from when DeForest Buckner, from when they're able to dictate the terms, because they have so much going up the middle with Grover, with DeForest, and with the 2 linebackers there. That's a really, really stout combination. I really like Stewart a lot. I think he gets to play off of Buckner for sure. Like if Stewart's your one defensive tackle in a really strong defensive tackle tandem, then that's one thing. But regardless, okay, having Buckner and then having Grover being able to play off of that, and then Kwity Paye and a little bit of juice, small amount of juice coming off the edges, that's a recipe for success when you have really good linebackers behind that. So bummer, we didn't get to see as much of Anthony as we wanted to. The running was on display. We didn't get to see as much of the passing. He got the concussion. He ended up playing a little longer than I realized after that. And then going out of the game, that was a bummer. Gardner Minshew was fine, but I don't think he's a backup for a reason. So that is what it is. He can probably hold the fort for a little bit, but he just doesn't have the arm strength that's capable of threatening a defense in the right way. So, you overexpose him and he's not good, but he's good to have for Anthony because I think he has a lot of heart. He plays the game the right way for sure, but in the end, he can be exposed for, his physical limitations versus Anthony being exposed for his experience or lack thereof so far. So Colts definitely will be watching for them going forward. I love watching Anthony. They've got a lot of good stuff around them. Josh Downs has something in the slot. They have Pittman, and then it'll be interesting to see what they truly can do when they have an elite running back there. If Jonathan Taylor is able to put that on the field this year, I think he should be able to. We'll see if he does when Week 5 comes out there. On the Texans side, lost the game for sure. Didn't look good on either side of the ball at times, right? There was real struggles running the ball. That was not a surprise, even though I still think Dameon Pierce is the alpha back. He still looks like the alpha back, and it still looks like the Texans believe him to be, but there wasn't a lot of running lanes in this game. And there's a good reason for that. The offensive line is kind of vulnerable at this time. Like without Laramie Tunsil out there, you can really tell that the offensive line was struggling in a big way. George Fant was okay, but to have one offensive lineman, like out of all of them, play just okay is pretty rough. Josh Jones didn't really seem like he could hold the edge in any significant way without holding, and they called it over and over again. That was the most glaring thing. And then when, I mean, I don't know, Kendrick Green didn't look great. We're talking, I don't know, Jarrett Patterson. I'm not into that either. Shaq Mason. And when Shaq Mason's just okay, and when your best offensive linemen are just okay on one side, that's a problem for an offense overall. And CJ and Dameon Pierce had a real problem finding running lanes for that reason. And they were really committed to that early on, and they had to decommit as things progressed, and they had to go to the passing game. And things looked better for the Texans when they did that, for sure. And part of that was that during that time, which was mainly during the fourth quarter when I thought it looked its best and most continuous, that was partly because the Colts backed off because they were up a couple of possessions, and they were just trying to let the Texans run out the clock with short plays as well. You can kind of turn that on an offense where, hey, here you go, buddy. You want to take those 5-yard gains? That's fine. You're going to run out the clock and we're going to win this game if you do so. And then we've got your deep stuff covered. There comes that point in every game if the other team gets up 2 points. Sometimes it's like the last 4 minutes. Sometimes it's the whole second half. Just depends on how down that other team is. So some of that CJ Stroud goodness that we're going to talk about today came during that time. But at the same time, with the way the line was being penetrated by the Indianapolis Colts on a play-by-play basis, and with the lack of running game and with everything that when you take all that into an account with the way that CJ Stroud played as well, then you have to be really, really encouraged by the way that CJ Stroud played. And that's what this season is all about for the Texans, is developing CJ Stroud and developing Will Anderson, which we'll talk about a little bit. But let's focus on the CJ Stroud part, and then we'll have a little Will Anderson talk. Okay, so it's all about CJ Stroud. We need to see him develop and see him become what he can for the Texans to go as far as they can go as a franchise, right? It's all about CJ. It's not, it really isn't, but it is at the same time. Like you need everything else around him to progress too. You need to get the offensive line in there. You need to see what you've got with these veterans. Where do we have holes, etc. And we need like other people to develop for sure. But really, there's a big emphasis on, did we get this second pick right? Is he our guy? And what do we need to get for him for the future? Because we can see what he's going to be when everything goes right. Because right now, everything is going really, really fast. Same for Anthony, same for Bryce, same for a lot of the second year guys too. Ritter and Sam Howell, etc. Jordan Love, who's not a second round guy, but this is his first year. I watched that game. I watched the Chicago Bears game as well. And so we're going to talk about all of these quarterbacks in a nice little swipe here that they all need to develop in this way. But for CJ especially, and for the rookies especially, we need to be able to see who can they be when everything's going right, because the game is going too fast right now. So when it's going too fast, that puts your feet out of sorts, makes your throws off timing. There's just a lot of things that goes wrong for a lot more plays than will go wrong when the game is not going quite as fast. So when CJ is used to the speed of NFL players and the game, and feels confident and more comfortable, what happens when things go right and he's able to play a higher level quarterback versus right now there's only going to be certain plays and certain times that it's going to look that good. So when those things go right, what does that look like for CJ versus, and trying to not throw out some of the bad stuff, but just know that bad stuff is gonna be less and less over time, because he's gonna be more and more comfortable. So it's important it's like you're looking at it in flashes, and I saw big time flashes from CJ Stroud. So a couple of things that I like with this that I think show big time upside for him. Now I said that, okay, he may not make throws on time, and he may not make some of the more, I didn't say this part, but he may not make some of the more complicated throws, because throws downfield take more precision, take more accuracy, take better timing. The cool thing is that he's making throws I don't expect him to be able to make at this time. A lot of them are to Nico Collins, because he's really their one truly plus weapon in the passing game, and that's fine. But CJ isn't honing in on him only, but he is able to make those big time plays down the field. There was throws that he made that I was like, oh, he fit that into a window. Like there was only one spot. There was only one time he could fit it into Nico right here, and he does it. And he makes it down the field at a time where the other team knows he's going to be throwing it, or it's not having to be off of play action for him to make big time plays and big time throws down the field. Not just the pitch and the catch. The pitch and the catch is there too. And I'm talking about when he has to make an additional read or it's a tight window. He's doing some of these things that only a quarterback that has advanced passing skills and an advanced knowledge of where that ball needs to be could make. Now, they're fewer and far between than what we hope will be later on, both when he has better weapons and when he has a better feel for the game. But for him to already be making these plays right off the bat with these throws is super big. I can't understate how mature he looked as a passer at times. Other times, like I said, he's behind, he's not seeing it, and the feet get out of whack and he makes a bad throw, or he has to escape or not escape. Sometimes he gets tackled right now from within the pocket, and it ends up being a bad play. Those plays are not few and far between. They're there, and they're a big part of how the Texans got behind in this game and the game before. But when you see CJ make these really mature throws on time, making accurate passes, he has a level of accuracy that Anthony can't even dream of right now. Fundamentally, it's a fundamental thing where the feet are there, and he's able to drive the ball with his arm, and he knows where he's supposed to put that ball for his receiver to be the only one to go get it. He's making really mature plays in that range that I didn't expect him to make so early on. And it should be really exciting for Texans fans. And then not only that, but he's got more pop in his legs and he's doing things. So that allows him to escape, which allows him to do things that make those plays where he makes the extra time with his legs and then he's able to pop the ball down the field. He's doing that too. That's another big part of it is I'm seeing not just the stuff when it's first read and he gets the ball out on time and it looks good because he's got pop in his arm and he's throwing the ball with accuracy. That's great. And I want to see that both in a pitch and catch setting when the guy's wide open. We see that. And then we also see it when the guy has tight coverage sometimes too. He's able to make some of those throws that made me raise my eyebrows. But then when you pair that with the escapability portion of it too, that he's able to improvise and make the second play too, then that's a recipe for success in the NFL. Okay, yes, the play's there. Boom, I've got that. Okay, yes, the play is there, but it's a tight throw. I can make that throw too. And then, okay, the play's not there. Let's get out of here. He's making not inconsistency, not with the consistency that we would want to say this is a big time quarterback. That's what he has to build to. But the fact that he can already do some of it, even when things don't go right, is huge. Because Jared Goff can do things when things go right, but his upside is capped because he doesn't always have the ability to do that. Like he doesn't have the ability to escape and do more after that. CJ can do that. He's not robotic in that way like I was afraid of. So that's so big. And it's not going to equal wins like you might want right off the bat because there's going to be plenty of inconsistency with it. But I'm telling you that he's making some mature throws and that I would be super excited that you might have a franchise guy if he's able to progress. So he has to make the progressions beyond that. The game has to slow down. When the game slows down, he's able to concentrate more on his footwork and making the throw and looking guys off and doing advanced quarterback stuff. So there's a whole lot of a Jedi. He's got to study and get better and make the work happen. But it seems like he's already put a lot of work in. It seems like he's already got a good feel for the game. And then he seems like he's got the full amount of physical talent you would want to have for your quarterback right on tap. So he's got all the things there. And now it's just, okay, let's develop this guy. Let's put this guy in positions to succeed by having all your linemen in there. Let's get Laramie Tunsil back. Let's get Howard back, Tyus Howard back. Let's get him back in the lineup. And then let's see what we can do once everything's going right. This was everything's going wrong. And we're still getting some of these plays. We're still watching CJ be able to move the offense, even though some of it was during garbage time when the Colts backed off. As I said, the Colts are a murder row up the middle and on the defensive line. So not murderers row. They don't have everybody. They don't have great talent at defensive end. They have decent talent at defensive end. But anyway, my point is not having the linemen here. Like I said, not having the full roster. Like there's still Robert Woods isn't great, but he's good or okay. Tank Dell could be something. He's still just a rookie, but with B weapons, he's making stuff happen. That should be exciting, not to overlay the point here. Anyway, the other thing is Texans, I wish they wouldn't have traded their pick for Will Anderson. I see flashes on Will Anderson too, but that is a bummer that, I would like to have a chance if I'm the Texans because I don't think they're going to lose a lot of games. But I think they're going to win some games too. I wish they had their pick because that could be a big bummer if Will Anderson isn't the guy, and then we could possibly be giving up a top 10 pick if you're a Texans fan. That could be on the table here because there's going to be a lot of growth that needs to happen. And then there's going to be a lot of teams that can run the ball too because you're weak up the middle on defense. And then if Will Anderson isn't the next coming of LT, that could be a problem. And it hasn't looked that way yet, but he also doesn't have a lot of help either. So they could double him. They can do whatever they want as far as taking him out if they want to too. So just a quick aside there. I know I said I was going to talk about it, but it's just a quick aside because we're trying to move quickly through this. Not quickly, but we're trying to hit this in 60 minutes here. And we're running a little behind, so that's okay. Anyway, the next game that I watched was the Buccaneers versus the Bears. Buccaneers took care of business on this day. And the first thing I want to say is the Bucks defense is absolutely legitimate. Actually, the Bucks offense is legitimate as well. Um, Now, I don't know how much I believe in the Bears defense to this point, but I just have to say, you got Shaq, Barrett, Vita Vea, Levante David, and Devin White. Whew, just right off the bat, really, really solid pieces just to anchor this defense. And it really makes it hard in the same way that the Colts are able to make it hard. You can really dictate the terms of not being able to run, especially when you have a guy like Vita Vea up the middle and then Levante and Devin White behind him. But it's also a secondary thing too. It's not just the up the middle for the Buccaneers like it is for the Colts. The Colts have talent other places, don't get me wrong. But when you also have Antoine Winfield, when Zion McCollum plays really well, I liked him. And then you also, you had talent outside of that as well. Ryan Neal, okay, whatever. But James Dean and Carlton, I can't remember Carlton's last name, but you have other corners, even though Carlton didn't play in this game. So a lot of talent on this defense is the point, and this is them playing it with a mediocre game from. I mean, it's Devin White and Levante David didn't even have to do that much with this because the front was just so dominating of the Bears, and I think we'll talk about it more with the Bears, but I think that is kind of indicative of the Bears, but it's also a big time shout out to Shaquille Barrett playing like a monster and then having all these other pieces there. Antoine Winfield as well. Antoine Winfield had a really good game and has really played well through his first two games, being disruptive and being all over the field too. So just a lot of pieces flying around on that Tampa Bay, and you got Todd Bowles kind of dialing it up. Oof. Todd Bowles with defensive pieces, that he can do something with that. And that was one thing I was thinking going into the season was that, Todd Bowles, I don't know, coaching job or whatever. It wasn't super great last year necessarily, but I think that was also partly the personnel injuries, etc. last year too. So coming out the gate healthy, having everybody kind of moving in concert was a big deal for this defense. So I'm going to be giving them respect going forward as well. I'm not going to be targeting the Buccaneers necessarily just right off the bat, in like survivor pools or anything, because it's not. I mean, even Greg Gaines. I mean, they're just solid. They're rock solid on defense as it stands right now. Now they might be a little more top. They're top heavy. They got those guys I'm talking about them because they're stars, and if they go away, then we're talking about a different story for the Bucks, right? Because I don't think the offense is domineering by any stretch, but it doesn't have to be if they're going to play defense like this. Now, to speak on the offense a bit, Baker looks healthy for sure. And Canales, the offensive coordinator, is doing a great job of managing him, giving him a run game to work with, giving him play action, not just putting it all on Baker's shoulders to step back there and rip 15-yard passes. It's not on Baker to do so, and that's a great thing for the Buccaneers. Now, the Bears are still like really early in their rebuild here because their roster, they broke it down, and I don't think they're still sure how to use it entirely yet on either side of the ball. So the fact that the Buccaneers were able to get up should be taken with a small grain of salt here. And I will definitely be giving the Bears the side eye. And I think there will definitely be some times where Justin Fields is going to have to throw them back into games. And this game was a lot closer than 27-17 made it seem. The Bears were in it for a long time. But still they're just thin all three levels of the defense. They got Yannick Ngakoue like their one big guy on defense, and that's not great. He's good. He's really good. But I mean, still, it's just not great that they lack playmakers on both sides of the ball. And they're just now bringing them in because this roster was not good. That was a big part of my big thing with the Bears was, man, they're just devoid of talent. They got lucky to get Justin Fields in the first place. So not to take away from the Bucks, having Mike Evans, having Chris Godwin, Otten had a big game finally. Rashad White had a big game. Chase Edmonds is probably going to be out for a while, so it might be heavier. Rashad White might see some more Keyshawn Vaughn or some different things, but it's encouraging for the Bucks overall. I mean, this division is by no means set. The Saints have their problems as well. So I'm interested. The Bucks, they have me interested. They played a quality game. They set things up in a quality way, and I don't know. I don't know that I'm running out to get Rashad White necessarily, but he looked good too. They played more in a more continuous way and seem to have more of their S together. The question is that the Bears? Is that their first opponent? I don't know. But still would be very encouraged if I'm a Bucks fan. Um, Now is that going to get you Caleb? Is 2-0 going to get you Caleb Williams? And is this roster going to prevent you from doing so? Maybe. But maybe you don't have to go all the way down there if this roster is so good now and you're able to continue to build this defense up. You don't always have to go all the way down to the bottom to get all the way up there. Sometimes you just have to stick to developing a guy, or maybe it's Baker. Hey, if Baker can play like this within himself and make the throws when he needs to make them, more power to him. They may be able to do it. He looks healthy out there, and they seem – Wirfs protects his backside. Wirfs is legit. Wirfs is the best tackle to come out of that class. They got super lucky that they were able to draft him when they're able to draft him because he is a franchise guy. You give a guy franchise protection, then maybe you'll get something out of it. And that is a direct shot at the Chicago Bears offensive line because they were not good today. They were not good today by any stretch. And I don't know that they're going to be good. Like they have a problem. It doesn't seem like they have a good feel for each other. They're not, the communication seems low. It just seems like they're not getting it like as much as they should out of this offense for sure. Like Tampa Bay, they've got Mike Evans, they've got Chris Godwin. They're getting a lot out of this offense, right? But you got DJ Moore, then what do you got? Like Komet is okay, but he's not explosive in a game changer type way. He's a guy, they overpaid him for sure. And then Chase Claypool played a lot better, but he has inconsistent effort still. Like he just doesn't make smart plays a lot of the time. And he played a lot better and he got that touchdown late. And yeah, that made the game look a lot better. I said it was closer than it looked, but that there was a late touchdown in there too. So maybe it was as close as it looked. But regardless, I mean, they didn't use DJ Moore like a number one guy at times. That was weird. He got taken away, but mainly it was that the offensive line and trying to overcome that. Like the guy like Vita Vea ate them for lunch pretty consistently. Like you're talking, I mean, it's weird because you'd think it would be the edges where they'd have the most problem, or I guess not since they drafted Darnell Wright, but between Braxton Jones and Darnell Wright, they need the interior to be the strong point of this line, and it just hasn't been going right now. And then you throw in Vita Vea, being in there eating them up, and then Shaq Barrett's giving the tackles hell on the outsides, and it was really hard for Justin. And it wasn't just like a individual one-on-one thing. It felt schematic. Like Todd Bowles took them apart with his blitzes, and they just didn't have it. They didn't have the ability to correct that. And it's scary. That should be scary because people are going to watch this film and they're going to know how to attack. I mean, Justin didn't look great as a passer, but he also wasn't protected either. In the same way with CJ. It's just I have higher expectations for Justin because this is year 3 versus CJ's year 1. And there wasn't a solid running game behind him, that even though they want to commit to that, and then they're getting their butts rushed off. And how do you create coherent offense with that? The point is you don't. And then Khalil Herbert and Roshan Johnson, and we didn't even get to see him, but Deontay Foreman are just guys. I mean, they're better a bit, but I mean, I mean, Khalil's got a pop. Okay, he's not just a guy, but the rest of the team, Roshan does too. Okay, fine. Deontay's the only just a guy. I'm bitter about that part, but they're not A pluses that are going to overcome this line. And then teams seem to know they can get Justin off of his mark with this line, and it's a bad 1-1. And then, like I said, I don't respect the defense at all. Probably going to be betting against the Bears a little bit, but once again, this is about showing flashes again because we can see pretty clearly this team is incomplete. So we just need to see flashes from Justin. I still see the skeleton of something great from Justin. It's just I was hoping more for the Chicago offense overall, and that might be a dubious proposition. But then again, I also think that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have a top 10 defense too. So there it is on that. Next game and final game that we'll go over today was the Green Bay Packers versus the Atlanta Falcons. And I'm interested in this game. I know these aren't two of your more popular teams necessarily. And I don't know that any of these games I watched would have been the first game I would have watched just right off the bat. If the coaching film came out like first thing, but that's why I'm watching these games right up so we could get some snap opinions out there so that we can get a feel for these games. Cause I feel like they're pretty simple as far as like what I'm looking for to understand about these teams. And for both these teams, it's okay. What are these? I have a pretty good feel for the defenses. Both defenses are good, not great. I think Tampa Bay could be a great defense if everybody stays healthy. I don't think either one of these defenses are as good as that. But neither one of these are approaching the bear cupboardness of the Chicago Bears, right? So it's an in-between thing. So it's a good team to evaluate both these quarterbacks and offenses against. So I'll probably talk more about the offenses on both sides of this. And I guess probably the whole podcast has been that, but whatever. Anyway, so the winning team, the Atlanta Falcons, the 2-0 Atlanta Falcons, put some respect on their name and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers name, if you will. NFC South, what? No, they're going to be a dumpster fire, but if the Saints take care of business like I think they're going to, we're going to have 3 2-0 teams. So there you go. Anyway, with Desmond Ridder, way better day than last week. Last week, he kind of stood around and didn't move as much. Like he did move, but it wasn't in a cool way. That's really hard to explain. But like, there's running for your life is not cool. Like running with somebody like right on you, like, and you have to like high step and he like nearly misses your ankles. That's not a cool run. That's a you got lucky situation. Cool running is running to space and then getting away from the guys, running to all this space and then making plays after that, either running the ball or throwing the ball down the field. Desmond did a lot more cool running today, and it was very beneficial to him and the offense overall. It really kept them going, which was rare for them, or not rare. That's not what I'm looking for. It was something they desperately needed today, because outside of Bijan, everybody was pretty normal. I know Drake London had a good day, but as far as separation, as far as explosive plays, Bijan was the big explosive play guy, right? So fine. But they needed they needed Desmond to move around today, and he needs that too, because he's not a great processor from the pocket. Nobody is to get started, really. Like, that's why we love Joe Burrow so much, because in year 2, he was already a great processor and decision maker. And that comes with time. Even Joey B in that first year was pretty rough. Trevor too. Peyton Manning too. My boy right here. Yes, a correct point. First off the bat, I'm learning. My boy right here, Peyton Manning. Let's get the full M in here. Oh, there we go. Oh, no. Anyway, I digress. Even Peyton didn't have it in year 1. So to see Desmond not be a great processor of reads from the pocket is not surprising. I wanted a little bit more from him in week 1, if you're just going to stand around like that. Desmond didn't stand around like that. And I believe it was by design today because there was a lot more designed runs. That touchdown run was beautiful. He seemed more willing to run with it. I think they said, "Hey, we want you to be safe, but you need to run the ball, son." And he did. And I liked it. And it's less sustainable than being able to play from with them in the pocket. But if you don't got it, you got to fake it till you make it. It's part of why I like Anthony. Anthony's going to run. Anthony's going to go get it. And same with CJ. CJ's not afraid to go get it either. And I like it. And I think we have a similar situation with Desmond. Desmond showed me some fight today. And while I'm not stoked about his let's not call it lack of progression because he didn't get a long time last year. And then he doesn't have like a bunch of separation mavens out there. Like all his dudes are dudes you got to throw it up there with a little feel. You got to throw these guys a lot of 50-50, a lot of tight balls. And it takes a lot of balls. It takes a lot of confidence. And that's not always a big thing for a guy that's not like it's kind of like a small school. He didn't go to a small school necessarily, but he's a small guy. Like he's he's not as talented as Anthony. He's not as talented as CJ. It's not a big confidence game for him. We got to build him up. We got to build him into this guy if we're going to do it. So you got to give him these confidence plays and throws, and it's going to come along a little slower because it's Drake London. Like Drake London, you got to just trust that Drake's going to go get it. You got to put it where only Drake is going to be able to get it sometimes because he's not going to run away from everybody all the time because he's not a speedster. That's not his game. He's got catch radius. All their guys are catch radius guys. So it's going to be some throw it up. It's going to look rough at times, but there's going to be some excitement too. And then you've got Bijan running every which way. I love the way they're utilizing him and they upped his snap count. Oh, I'm so excited. I moved the camera. I like it. So it's not just like they're behind the center stuff. They're moving him around. They're making him the decoy on some stuff, but they're getting the ball in his hands outside on the edges. And that is making it easier on Desmond. And then when they've got the eyes on Bijan, then and then Ritter's able to make some plays outside of that. That's a good sign for the Atlanta Falcons moving forward. And for Desmond moving forward. I was very concerned last week when he was playing that I wasn't able to see the forest I wasn't able to see the forest through the trees because his passing was just they didn't ask him to do a whole lot, but then they kind of upped the ante in this game a little bit and what he had to do, and he responded better than I expected, and I liked it. Still don't know that he's going to be a franchise guy, but the ceiling moved up and the floor moved up with that running for him in my eyes. And I trust Arthur Smith in a weird way. Not with my mustache necessarily, but with with offense. He schemes quality offense and he schemes interesting offense. Like it's hard to read for a defense where stuff is going to come from. So I want him to get a quality guy. And today was encouraging on the Desmond front that maybe he can develop into that. And on the Falcons front, I'm still buying Falcons. Algier is going to be really inconsistent because they're not always going to get to run the ball the way they want to run the ball. Like today, they were more prepared for it on the Packers end because they're a more complete defense than the Panthers are. Like overall, they're more complete and they're able to do more things. And I respect them as a defense, even though they let Ritter get up on them, right? But at the same time, I was just as encouraged on the Ritter side. On the Jordan Love side, I also found myself encouraged by his play. And you might say, Taylor, he has 6 touchdowns in the first 2 games. Why wouldn't you be encouraged? Because I was discouraged by the first game a little bit, even with 3 touchdowns. Now, you might notice that I don't talk a lot about stats. I haven't even been talking about it. I'm just talking about the way I feel because I watch the games. You know what the stats are for? If you don't watch the game, so you can know what happened. I'm watching so I know what happened. I've been watching. I put in the time and I'm ready to tell y'all. And you know what? Jordan made me feel something more than he did last week. And because I think I see it a little bit more on how his equation can work out. Because the thing was, even though I'm encouraged by the numbers are also a product of the scheme. Now, quarterback and scheme have to work in concert to raise the floors and the ceilings and have everything be beautiful. Like they have to work, the quarterback has to be in the right scheme and the scheme has to fit the quarterback. And we have that with the Jordan Love and Matt LaFleur situation. My point is that Matt LaFleur has gone full Shanahan, and it doesn't force the quarterback to do as much, to make as many reads. Like CJ Stroud had to make reads, and that's why I was more excited about him as a franchise guy than I would be Jordan Love, because Jordan Love doesn't have the same amount of accuracy and feel for the game that CJ Stroud has, but he doesn't have to with the amount of talent he has around him, from an offensive line, running game, and Shanahan's scheme fit, because LaFleur is definitely a quality offensive coordinator, offensive mind, etc. So he puts Jordan Love in these perfect situations to succeed. Don't forget, one of the touchdowns was a push pass. Don't forget that. One of them was Jaden Reed wide open too. But he made those throws. And he made a lot of throws today that I wasn't sure he was going to make consistency. He showed more consistency today than he did last time. And they lost the game. So once again, quarterback wins are not everything to me when it comes to evaluating these guys and how I feel about them going forward. And I would be very encouraged with the Jordan Love stuff, because I didn't think he was going to have any semblance of accuracy. And it's just, sometimes he's just inaccurate. Sometimes he doesn't know exactly where it's going. And that's okay, but it's not great. In a Shanahan system, that's okay, but he can hide that a lot. And same thing with Jared Goff. Like when it comes to nut cut time, Jared Goff struggles. When it comes to, you ask Jared Goff to do too much, he struggles. And if you ask Jordan Love to do too much right now, he struggles. Like asking him to win that game right now with the current level of wide receiver that they have was too much. In the same way, like when Jimmy G got the ball back against the Rams in the NFC Championship game, and he had 2 minutes to do that drive. Did anybody believe he was going to make that drive? No, because that requires pinpoint throwing of the football with accuracy, throwing guys open, dropping back within the pocket and being able to make plays on a consistent basis. The reason I'm excited about CJ Stroud so much in a loss is because he showed me he had the ability to do that at a possibly elite level when he gets his S together. I wonder if Jordan Love can ever do that. And that makes me wonder if he's ever going to advance to me beyond a certain level. But the fact that he's already shown me what he's already shown me makes me think he's already surpassed my expectations for what he can be, because he has more physical skills than Jimmy G, but he's got less accuracy. And I think that can lead to a better all quarterback than what Jimmy G is able to offer. Jimmy G is kind of my Zach Moss line. It's like, if you can't offer more than that, then you're you're in that Zach Wilson where Jimmy G can't even, or Zach Wilson can't even do the pitch and catch stuff. Jimmy G pitches and catches. He hits the open guy. He makes smart decisions mostly, but he can't throw guys open. He can't raise the offense. I think Jordan Love can raise the offense with his legs and he has better arm strength, and just his physical tools are more to the point where if he could take some bigger strides, like if it's because linear progression isn't linear, if he could take a big jump in his accuracy and just overall, like his footwork sometimes a little bit out of whack, and that's what affects the accuracy, then he could be something. I wasn't sure that he had the accuracy even to be one of those guys going into the season. So the fact that he's already shown that is a big encouragement. It's just, what is his ceiling? Can he be better than Kirk Cousins? Because Kirk Cousins doesn't really have that extra level of processing power. And Jordan showed me that maybe he could, but he doesn't yet at all. And that it's a little more discouraging for him, because he should be so much further along, but he needs these starts too. So I'm excited. It makes me way more excited for the Packers for sure. I'd be way more excited about the Packers than I thought they should be going into the season, because this is him without Christian Watson too, like his one plus weapon that has his flaws too, But Romeo Doubs is like a small plus. Lucas Musgrave can be a plus next year probably. He's still like a year away. Strength wise, it's never there for the tight end in year one, but he's got something too. They've got like the skeleton of something, but the muscle hasn't grown around the skeleton yet. And I think that Jordan Love could possibly be the heartbeat of it. It's just those accuracy issues in the pinch when the game's on the line. That kind of stuff is where I worry, because that accuracy stuff, the same reason I'm excited about CJ that he showed the accuracy, I'm worried about Jordan Love that he hadn't shown it. Same thing with Anthony. Anthony doesn't have that all the time too. It's going to be a progression thing. At least Jordan Love has the skeleton. I could see how this could go right for him now. Wasn't so sure that was the case in the offseason. So that's where you should be excited on that end. Well, that's what I've got for these 3 games. It wasn't the love I would like to show these games. I still have other stuff I have to do during the day. It's not just football for me yet. That's the goal, right? So like, subscribe, send this to your friends if you liked it. I need the pub. Don't keep me to yourself if you do like me, okay? Because I need the pub to get myself over so that I can do every game. I wish I could give every game their own podcast. I wish I had that time, and I would, and I will. I will do that for you if you be there for me. So let me know you liked it. Let me know that you're here and listening. Should have more coming out, videos, etc. I'm excited to offer the video on YouTube so you can see my face. You like it? I lost this weight for you. There was extra Taylor here. I was like, had a beard. You'll see it in the old videos if you watch some old videos. But now, jawline, son, Jawser size. Get you a Jawser size. That thing is legit. Not sponsored by them. Hopefully the sponsorships start coming in. We'll see that too. Appreciate your time today. Have a great rest of your day.